Welcome. Today we're doing something a bit different, offering a new in-depth approach to book coverage with this extended summary.
That's right. Unlike some of our previous reviews, which offer more of a focused analysis, this feature delivers a really comprehensive overview.
Exactly. We're tracing the intellectual roots, the key arguments, and the real-world impact of Phil Christman's thought-provoking book, Why Christians Should Be Leftists.
We really hope you appreciate this expanded format. Let us know if you find it helpful. Your feedback will definitely help shape future content.
Absolutely. Now, we often operate under the assumption that faith and political alignment are pretty static, especially within American Christianity, right?
That's a common view.
But what if those deeply ingrained beliefs don't quite reflect foundational ethical teachings? Christman's work makes you ponder exactly that.
It really does.
And just before we dive in, we want to be crystal clear that our role here is to impartially convey the ideas and arguments presented in the book. We're not here to endorse or refute specific viewpoints.
Our goal is simply to help you understand Phil Christman's fascinating work from his perspective.
Okay, so the book we're dissecting today is Why Christians Should Be Leftists, which is set for publication in September 2025 by William B. Eerdmans Publishing Company.
And it's quite a mix, isn't it? Part religion, part political essay, part memoir, and definitely a pop theological critique.
It is. And for our listeners, you should know, you are experiencing a unique two-host AI conversation powered by Google's NotebookLM, designed specifically to give you deeper, more dynamic book summaries.
So Christman's central contention, it's essentially a provocative manifesto, wouldn't you say? It blends very personal testimony with sharp political analysis.
Definitely. He argues that Christian ethics align best with leftist ideals, making a direct case that the teachings of Jesus intrinsically guide believers toward leftist politics. It's certainly a bold proposition.
It absolutely is, and what's immediately striking is how Christman grounds this audacious argument in a very personal narrative. He shows that his journey isn't just about, abstract political theory. It's a spiritual and intellectual development prompted by deeply personal encounters, rigorous biblical study, and a profound wrestling with his own upbringing. And that approach immediately invites you, the listener, to consider your own journey in relation to faith and politics. It makes the whole discussion feel profoundly resonant, not just academic.
That's a powerful entry point, I agree. Many readers, I think, will find that personal grounding makes his subsequent arguments incredibly compelling.
Yeah.
Christman isn't just an observer. He's the narrator and protagonist of his own story here. He's an English professor, an essayist from Michigan, known for previous works like How to Be Normal.
Right.
He recounts an upbringing steeped in what he describes as a fundamentalist Christian household. What were the specific tenets or experiences within that environment that Christman highlights as shaping his initial worldview and, ultimately his later evolution?
Well, he describes a household deeply committed to a, let's say, literalist interpretation of Scripture. It emphasized personal piety, individual salvation, and a particular moral code.
Okay.
That, for him, initially overshadowed the broader social justice imperatives he would later discover in the Gospels.
I see. So a very specific focus.
Exactly. This early focus, while he acknowledges its earnestness, created a framework where he felt the communal and systemic aspects of Christian love were often overlooked or maybe de-emphasized in favor of personal righteousness.
That makes sense as a starting point for his shift.
It provides a crucial backdrop for his gradual ideological shift leftward. It explains how this shift was guided by the Gospel's prioritization of caring for the marginalized. So as you unpack Christman's work, you'll discover it's really multi-layered.
How so?
It's half personal testimony, part introductory guide to leftist thought, and also, quite clearly, an urgent appeal for readers to re-examine their own convictions.
And the setting itself, the contemporary United States, that's equally vital to understanding the book's impact, isn't it?
Absolutely.
He specifically references American Christianity's kind of interlocking relationship with right-leaning politics. How does Christman trace how this alliance formed? And why does he see it as problematic from a Christian ethical standpoint?
He delves into specific historical shifts, particularly from the late number 20th and early number 21st centuries.
Right, that period.
Yeah, where certain evangelical leaders and a significant portion of the American Christian demographic began prioritizing, well, political power and cultural influence over what Christman argues were core social justice teachings.
So a shift in priorities.
He suggests this alliance often led to a selective reading of Scripture, emphasizing personal morality while perhaps downplaying systemic injustice.
And he illustrates this through the environments he describes.
Yes, the physical and social environments, churches, conservative Christian households, academic spaces, they're presented through these very personal anecdotes and his cultural analysis. It makes the historical backdrop incredibly relatable and really demonstrates why this conversation is so timely and, for him, so necessary.
Okay, so having explored Christman's personal evolution and his critique of the prevailing political landscape, the natural question becomes, what does he propose as an alternative rooted in faith?
Right.
He doesn't shy away from exposing specific instances where political leaders, ostensibly aligned with Christian values, exploit issues like sexism, racism, homophobia.
He's quite direct about that.
He argues this cynical manipulation fundamentally betrays Christ's call for radical love and equality, asserting that Christianity shouldn't be married to any single worldly ideology. But how does he articulate the problematic nature of that marriage to ideology? What's the core issue for him?
He posits that when faith becomes subservient to political power, it loses its prophetic edge. That's the key.
Its prophetic edge.
Meaning it ceases to be a force for challenging injustice and instead becomes, well, a tool for maintaining existing power structures, often at the expense of the vulnerable.
Okay, I see.
He illustrates this tension through various characters in the book, maybe not always specific individuals, but often archetypes. The conservative Christian parent, the union organizer, the progressive activist.
Different perspectives.
Exactly. Each represents a different facet of how faith interacts with political systems, highlighting the internal and external conflicts Christman himself grapples with.
So it's broader than just party politics.
Definitely. This isn't just about critiquing a political party, but a particular relationship between faith and power that he sees as fundamentally misaligned with core Christian teachings. And it raises an important question for you, the listener. How do your deeply held values intersect with the economic and social justice issues of our time?
That's a powerful challenge indeed. Now, given that this book is titled Why Christians Should Be Leftists, it's crucial we understand how Christman defines leftists. It's not just a label. How does he specifically articulate the core tenets of leftism that he believes resonate with Christian ethics?
That's a great question because definitions matter here. He defines leftist not really as a partisan label for a specific political party, but more through a lens of systemic justice. Advocating for the poor, challenging corporate power, demanding environmental stewardship, championing the rights of marginalized communities, that sort of thing.
And the connection to Christian ethics.
He argues these are consistent extensions of biblical teachings. He emphasizes that Jesus' ministry was inherently concerned with the redistribution of power and resources to the oppressed.
So he draws direct lines.
Yes, he surveys key ideas within leftist thought and draws explicit parallels. For example, he specifically highlights how the call for economic equity, not just charity, right, but systemic justice, finds a powerful echo in the early Christian emphasis on communal sharing, and also in the prophetic denunciations of wealth accumulation you find throughout the Old Testament.
Interesting. So it's about finding a political expression for spiritual convictions.
Precisely. It isn't about blind allegiance to a political platform, but about finding a political expression for deeply held spiritual convictions.
As we navigate these complex and, let's be honest, often challenging ideas, for those who find themselves reflecting on these themes, maybe wanting to explore more resources for rational thought, remember our YouTube channel, Mindful Moments.
Good point.
It offers AI book analysis, summaries, and critiques, all designed to inspire reflection and rational thought. Definitely worth checking out.
Absolutely.
So, after laying out his personal journey and his critique, Christman doesn't just leave us hanging, does he?
No, thankfully not.
He provides both a profound biblical foundation and, importantly, concrete practical suggestions. He dedicates significant portions of the book to reflections on passages like the Sermon on the Mount, which he sees as absolutely foundational.
Foundational is the right word.
How does he argue that teachings like the last shall be first are inherently subversive? And what does that mean for a politics of solidarity?
Well, he doesn't merely quote scripture. He intricately connects the last shall be first to a really radical reevaluation of our economic systems.
Okay, how so?
Christman argues it demands dismantling hierarchies that create poverty and advocating for policies that actively uplift the marginalized, not just, provide charity after the fact.
A proactive approach.
Exactly. He emphasizes that this isn't about individual acts of kindness alone, though those matter, but about advocating for systemic changes that empower marginalized communities. That's a truly radical departure from approaches that might just maintain existing power structures.
So the Bible is central to his conclusions.
For him, the Bible isn't just referenced. It's presented as the foundational text guiding his moral and political conclusions. He shows how these teachings inherently call for a politics of solidarity with the oppressed.
That distinction between individual charity and systemic change is a critical one he makes.
It really is.
He also discusses blunting the acquisitive edge of capitalism. That's quite a phrase. How does Christman suggest this might practically manifest? What are some of the actionable steps he proposes for Christians engaging with these ideas?
He suggests this could manifest through things like robust unionization, wealth redistribution policies, and even a kind of spiritual detachment from consumerism.
Interesting.
And crucially, he views these not as merely secular prescriptions, but as ethical imperatives derived directly from the Gospels.
Oh, practical steps.
He outlines practical suggestions that include charitable giving, yes, but also active union organization, climate activism, and specific policy interventions aimed squarely at reducing economic inequality.
Right.
He discusses giving, unionization, and activism not just as abstract policy goals, but as actual cultural practices and practical outworkings of Christian ethics.
And his own experience comes into play here, too.
Yes, the book also details Christman's own growing engagement with leftist community organizing and activism, including his encounters with both Christian and secular leftist groups. It really pushes you, the reader, to consider the active role your beliefs might play in shaping a more just world.
Showing it's not purely theoretical.
Exactly. It has real-world application.
Now, beyond the arguments themselves, the way Christman presents them is quite distinctive, isn't it?
Oh, very much so.
He employs a first-person memoir-style testimony, skillfully interspersed with these quite erudite essayistic reflections. It allows him to engage in what he calls a pop theological critique. Can you elaborate on what he means by that term? Yeah, how this unique style serves his larger purpose.
Absolutely. When he refers to pop theological critique, it basically means he scrutinizes widespread religious messaging, the kind you see especially through media, popular culture, even Sunday sermons, to expose where he believes it diverges from the radical ethics of Jesus. He often challenges assumptions about, say, the prosperity gospel or nationalist theology or very individualistic interpretations of faith.
Things he sees as delusions.
Exactly. Things he sees as diluting Christ's call for systemic justice. His style is notably erudite, lively, and yes, occasionally digressive, blending personal stories, biblical analysis, and political critique into a really unique and engaging voice.
And the structure reflects that.
Yeah, the time structure is largely chronological, tracing his personal journey. But these frequent digressions, the insightful commentary, even the footnotes, they all enrich the reader's understanding. It allows him to make these complex connections between theology, ethics, and pop culture feel much more accessible.
And this unique approach seems to have garnered him quite a bit of attention already.
Yeah.
What have been the general themes in the reception to the book, particularly regarding how he explicitly connects leftist values with gospel teachings?
The book has definitely attracted attention, no doubt, both for its provocative arguments and its nuanced prose.
Right. Christman consistently highlights care for the poor, peacemaking, opposition to exploitative social structures, arguing these are not just incidental, but absolutely central to gospel teachings.
And how have critics responded?
Critics have generally praised Christman's ability to synthesize theology, ethics, and pop culture. They note the book's accessibility and how it really stimulates thoughtful discourse.
So generally positive, even with the provocative nature.
It seems so. It's lauded for its power to challenge those conventional religious political alignments and to engage readers in a deeper consideration of what their faith truly demands of them, out in the public square.
Okay, so to recap, Why Christians Should Be Leftists by Phil Christman fundamentally challenges the conventional religious political alignment. It argues for a foundational link between Christian ethics and leftist ideals. It's a book that really invites deep reflection on the true meaning of faith in action, compelling readers to reconsider deeply held convictions. It absolutely does, and it leaves you with a really provocative thought to chew on. Consider whether the pursuit of justice, equality, and compassion might actually be a more radical act of faith than is commonly imagined.
That's a great point to end on. And if you're ready to dive even deeper into this book, click the link on screen for the in-depth book critique. Don't forget to subscribe, share, maybe purchase the book via the link, and keep thinking rationally.
Thanks for joining us.
See the many genre-based book podcasts at Mindful Moments. Subscribe and nourish your mind on the go.